What's going on, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 261 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. This is the Hot Tags edition for the week, where I'm going to be breaking down some of the current events, rumors, and news going on in the world of pro wrestling and sports entertainment from the past few days. As always, I am your host, Tony Mango, and as happens from time to time, this was one hell of a slow news week because everything interesting revolved around Survivor Series. So we already talked about it when we did the post-show recap, and there's not a whole lot of other things to kind of talk about. Shane McMahon's injury, I'd be repeating myself on that one. Goldberg beating Lesnar so fast, check out the review. So because of that, there aren't a lot of things to really dive too much into, which means I bumped up something from next week that I had planned on doing then, and I'll be doing it here instead, which is to give you guys a breakdown of some of the things that is going to be happening for the end of the year for Smark Out Moment. But first, let's take care of the hot tags that actually do exist, shall we? And first things first, I want to talk about the authentic, untold story of ECW. They did a little documentary-style recap about ECW because they are putting a lot more ECW content on the WWE Network. So this premiered after Survivor... No, it wasn't after Survivor Series. It was after Monday Night Raw. Survivor Series was Story Time. I'll get to that in a minute, too. But this was Tommy Dreamer, the Dudley Boys, Taz, Corey Graves, and Paul Heyman talking about some of the things that might not have necessarily been mentioned before, about how they did some of the dealings back in the day, how Bubba Ray was apparently very, very involved in a lot of different things that you might not assume that he would be. Like, he was a guy running the books and stuff. Taz ran the t-shirt division, which I did not expect that to happen, so a lot of things came out of this that were pretty interesting to me. And I'm not the biggest ECW fan out there, and I followed the product back in the day, but I was always 100% WWF, and then next up was WCW, and then ECW was like, all right, well, that's on, and I'll watch that kind of a thing. But some interesting things here that I put down in my notes. Disney almost funded a 49% share of ECW back in the day. That would have changed a lot of different things around, because that would have changed how they operated with pay-per-views and their TV deals and all that other kind of stuff. And obviously having a big financial backer like Disney means that there wouldn't have been as much of an influence to move them into WWE unless Disney got involved in WWE, which that would have been a huge, huge thing that maybe we wouldn't have had WWE anymore at this point. I don't know. Heyman used to keep his legal documents in the trunk of his car because he didn't have an office, which is kind of weird to think that, just some random car in the parking lot of some dingy building or whatever has all the future of ECW riding on it. Devon Dudley mentioned that his character, the whole Testify and everything like that, came about from Mr. T from Rocky III mixed with a little bit of Jules Winfield from Pulp Fiction, which kind of makes a little bit of sense if you think about it, because he's got that sort of swagger that they both have, but it's got the religious angle of Pulp Fiction and everything. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's something that, if you're a big fan of ECW, you should definitely check it out. If you're not the biggest fan, maybe you want to skip on it. It's about an hour, I think, maybe like 40 minutes or so. So it didn't take up a whole lot of time. It was something that I kind of just put on in the background. You don't have to watch it necessarily. So it's good. If you're trying to sleep, you want to put something on in the background and learn a little bit of something, then, it's interesting. So I recommend it for everybody. Can't really say the same all that much for WWE Story Time. That made its premiere after Survivor Series, so I had a lot of stuff on my plate doing the post-show and results recap and all that other kind of stuff, but I got around to watching it, and I'm not really digging it all that much. It's 4 stories that are really short. The animation's okay, but I was surprised that it really didn't have that much of a punch to it. I mean, they had mature content, so I was a little bit shocked about that, but they still felt like they trimmed things down to not be as risque as possible, which was a little bit disappointing, because to me, gore and violence and sex and profanity for the sake of trying to be edgy is dumb. But I also don't have many things that I would go like, oh man, you're stepping over the line with that one, that kind of thing. I don't want to see gore porn movies, but if there's a little bit of blood in a movie, then okay. Don't make it a PG thing because you want to avoid blood. Just do something reasonable. And when you do profanity, or sexual content or whatever like that, you don't need to have people say fuck every other word. I know I tend to curse quite a bit, but it doesn't need to be every little thing. But at the same time, if you want to tell a story, you shouldn't really make it something that you have to censor a little bit or whatever. Obviously, it's a little bit better for them to censor things a little bit and have the kids be able to watch the show. But if you're talking about some of the things that they were talking about here, I kind of felt like they were leaving a lot of details out, which maybe could have made a lot of these better. In general, I mean, it looks like it's a decent concept, but the execution maybe is what's off about it. I'm not too sure. We're going to have to see another episode before I really give it 100% of a view, but the whole episode's, I think, 11 minutes long, and that's including all the extra filler. So I do recommend people checking it out to see if they would like it. And I'll probably watch all the episodes because they're so damn short, but it's just not good. It's basically like the Comedy Central series, Shorties Watching Shorties. If you used to watch that back in the day, you remember that kind of a thing. Somebody narrates a story and they animate a cartoon to go along with it. But what sucks is none of the stories were particularly entertaining. So even though you have that cartoon that you can watch, they're doing stuff that doesn't really matter all that much. Jake the Snakes was pretty much, hey, some people opened up my snake's bag, and boy were they scared, even though he didn't do anything. Awesome. Ric Flair was just tooting his own horn about banging some flight attendants, which, of course, may or may not have even happened, because Ric Flair says this kind of stuff all the time, and you don't really know exactly if that's true or not. Look at the whole Halle Berry thing that just happened recently. So I don't think that was going to be a story that they were going to tell, but I would have been more interested in that one. But even if it is true, it's just a humble brag, and it's not funny. It's just the tale of some guy's sexual conquest from a couple decades ago. I don't really care about that. Ron Simmons tells the story where Teddy Long accidentally thought he was in the car, but wasn't. That's like me sitting down a group of people and being like, hey guys, hold on, drop everything that you're doing. You gotta listen to this awesome story of mine. So I went to Walmart to pick up a rotisserie chicken, and I got to the aisle that had them, and they don't have any. And I ask them, and they say that they're making some fresh ones, and they'll be ready in 5 minutes. So I wait 5 minutes, and they bring some out, and I pick one up, and then I decide I want tacos for dinner, and I put it back, and I got tacos. So isn't that fucking insane, everybody? It's like, no, it's not. It's just a dumb fucking story. So if they keep doing these kind of stories where it's stuff that doesn't really matter all that much, then it's not going to be a good thing that people are going to tune into a whole lot, and we're probably not going to get any more future episodes of it after this season, which is something that is kind of bothering me a little bit about this. We had Breaking Ground, which went through one season, which was great, and then they did another episode that was supposed to lead into season 2, and we never got season 2. We got these ride-along episodes where they've done maybe 5 of them, I think, and then we just keep seeing them on repeat, so I don't know why they're not doing any more of those. We haven't gotten a second season of Legends House. We haven't gotten the second season of that Jerry Springer show that I didn't really like all that much. There wasn't a second season of the Monday Night War. There wasn't a second season of pretty much any of these kind of things. So why invest all this time and effort if you're just going to do one season? Maybe continue bringing people on board and do some things a little bit different. Swerved had a second season, but that sucked because the whole thing that was fun about it was watching the wrestlers get swerved, not to see the wrestlers swerve random people. I don't know who the fuck these random people are. That's not going to make me laugh that Joe Schmo got scared by Stardust. I want to see Stardust scare, I don't know, Arn Anderson or something like that. That's what's funny. Because we're watching this for the entertainers. We're not watching this just to put something on and eat up our time. There's plenty enough content on the internet, on HBO, Netflix, basic cable, network TV. We got plenty enough shit to watch. So you got to actually give us something that's decent. And I don't know, Story Time's not really doing it for me all that much. Kind of imagining that maybe Camp WWE doesn't have a second season either, but I don't know. So I'd rather just hear a more elongated podcast where a bunch of these guys can get together, share some stories, do it in a more candid fashion, and then they can kind of play off each other a little bit too, because if you got the banter, that's part of the fun. Just because we need to do the whole animated story thing, that's going to be the reason why they didn't do that kind of a podcast style thing. And it's a decent enough gimmick if you have good enough stories, but I don't think that these stories were good. And if these are the 4 best ones that they really, really wanted to sell you on, at best, the Dudley Boys on the racetrack thing was maybe the funniest, but that one still wasn't even all that funny anyway. So I don't know. I'm not digging it. I think that this is the type of thing that if you find this stuff hilarious, you're going to love it. But I can't imagine that many people really, really liking this all that much. I would rather see another edition of Table for 3 where they just don't truncate it as much. And you have these guys talking about, you know what, that one time happened, whatever, this, kind of that, and ha ha ha, that's so funny. That's what's fun about this, not watching a little cartoon act out Ron Simmons standing on the side of the road. Bella Twins have started a YouTube channel, speaking of plenty of other content to watch, but stuff that you might not want to watch. It's very short form content videos, roughly about like a minute or 2 in length. I checked out a few of them, and it's nothing at all that I'm interested in. If it's stuff like how to not pack for an overseas trip, and they don't like each other's clothes, and that sort of generic peek into the daily life of a celebrity by looking at their dog and hearing about their every mundane thought while they're going to the fucking gas station and shit like that. I don't think that's one of the videos, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. So if you're into Total Divas and you're a big fan of that style thing and you really, really are obsessed with the Bella brand, it's perfect for you. Subscribe immediately. I don't think that they have a channel URL that actually has like youtube.com/Bella Twins or anything like that. I think it's just the random ass numbers and stuff. But if you're not into Total Divas and Total Bellas and just having them talk about how they're going to compare each other to Kardashians and shit, skip it. Don't waste your time. It's not worth checking out. It's not up, down, down, where you can actually get some kind of fun stuff out there. Or even the Tyler Breeze thing, which wasn't too bad, but I stopped watching it after like 2 episodes. But Bella Twins are trying their damnedest to make themselves huge, huge names in the entertainment industry. And you know what? I can't fault them on it. That's a smart move, and it's working. So kudos to them. All the people that support them, hopefully have a lot of fun on this channel. I'm not going to be one of them. Maybe if something crazy happens and the video goes viral, I'll check it out or whatever. But looking at the list of videos that they have out here right now, Brie climbs a mountain at 17 weeks pregnant. Don't care. Nikki is hyped for Survivor Series, but misses John Cena. I don't care about John. Her being like, oh, I miss John. And the dog flexing his muscles. BS. I don't care about that kind of stuff. Let's move on to something a little bit funny here. They've got all those lawsuits that have been happening with a bunch of different people against WWE. And in the process, something from Vito LaGrasso's contract that got posted on Twitter. And what's interesting about this, it has nothing to do with the lawsuit or whatever, but it's WWE's definition of a jobber and what they would have hired him for. What they constituted as in their contract is, quote, a temporary wrestler used on an as-needed basis, essentially as a prop, to lose to more prominent wrestlers. So that's nothing different from what we're used to referring to jobbers as. I mean, jobber, literally, the connotation is you do the job for the better, more important wrestlers. That's exactly what it is. But I thought it was funny that out of everything that they say with this, if you remove a couple words, there's no story here. But the fact that they had added that the wrestler is used as a prop is funny, because we've always heard title belts are props. And the thing that matters is the status of the person as the champion and the fact that they're defending a championship, not the belt itself. That's a prop. The tables are props. The chairs are props. The ring is a prop. And if you refer to an individual human being as, yeah, you're just a prop, holy shit. I mean, that's not even the same as the background people that are sitting there in the hallways when Goldberg walks by and stuff like that. This is just like, yo, Vito, you want us to hire you? Okay, well, we're going to hire you at a lower rate as a prop. You're not a superstar. You're not a wrestler. You're a prop, which is kind of demeaning if you think about it. So I thought that was kind of funny. I chuckled about that a little bit. And that's actually all the hot tags. Now, that probably means that after I post this, we're going to get some kind of a notification that some crazy shit happened, and I'll either do a small package or something else like that. But unless that does end up happening, then that's all the content for this week for the wrestling stuff outside of the Ask Him and the TLC Sporkle quiz and the mailbag. But I do want to talk about two other things, because I might as well do it here. We're only about 15 minutes into this, and, I can refer back to this over the next few weeks, and it'll be a little bit easier. So we're getting to the end of the year here. It's November 22nd when I'm recording this, which means I'm going to be doing both the 2016 Smark Out Moment Awards, and I also want to get your feedback. At the end of the year, I usually like to try to do a feedback survey to ask everybody what's going on. What did you think about what happened over the past 12 months, that kind of a thing. I do that every once in a while throughout the Mega Maniacs in the year if I'm going to make some big changes and stuff. I did that when I was switching the Smack Talk setup a little bit. But this is an overall scope, kind of a recap of the whole year, get your opinions about what's changed for the better, what's changed for the worse, that kind of a thing. So I have a questionnaire. It's linked below on YouTube, and you can find it on the Mega Maniacs, and I might post it on the website itself. I got to think about posting up an actual article about it or something like that. But check the YouTube description. It's definitely in there. It's a Google form, so you need to have a Google account, I'm pretty sure, to be able to vote for it. You might not actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure. But it's some pretty simple questions. It's how did you come across us? If it's, to get a range of if somebody's following us from YouTube and then they go to the website, or if they went to the website and then they went to YouTube, or their friend passed it around. Because I'm always telling you guys, if you want to help us grow, you want to make us better and better, then share us on different things, all the platforms like Reddit, message boards, and other friends of yours that you might be interested that might be interested in this kind of stuff. Then maybe you pass it along and that kind of a thing. So I want to know where they learn, or where I shouldn't say that, because you're listening to me right now, so you're a part of that. I want to know where everybody's coming from, because that's a good indicator of how to spread things in the future and what works and what doesn't, stuff like that. I want to know about whether or not people read the articles and or listen to Smack Talk, the reasons why maybe they do one or the other. If somebody says that they don't read the articles, and the reason why is because they would rather just listen to podcasts, or they don't like the segments that are on the website. Or likewise, if you don't listen to Smack Talk, then you're not hearing this right now. But if you are taking that because you follow the website and you don't listen to Smack Talk, then maybe it's because you don't have time to listen to a full-on podcast, whatever the case may be. I mean, it's a bunch of different questions that go along with that. But it also applies to other things. I want to know where you guys would like to discuss pay-per-view events live, because I'm kind of thinking a little bit about switching things up. I actually don't think I have a question about this that I didn't add in there, but it should have been. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'll retroactively add it in there or something. But one thing that I'm looking into a little bit is Facebook Live. So if we get a bunch of people that are still on the Mega Maniacs and that they want me to do stuff like the hot tags or whatever like that, if I can maybe figure out a way to broadcast that live and on YouTube, or maybe just do it YouTube live. I'm not sure. Then maybe we'll do something during pay-per-views or whatever the case may be. But that's another question. I want to know what your favorite segments are on the website, what you'd like to see more, what you'd like to see from the other writers, because we've got like the weekly articles, which most of the time, actually 99 out of 100 times, aren't from me. They're from Ross does Cheap Pop and Cheap Heat, Caden's doing Battle of the Brands, Jordan and Gabby going back and forth with the Divas Debrief, and Ben doing the power rankings. So I want to know, what's your favorite out of those, that kind of stuff. A whole bunch of different questions. I'm not going to run down every single one of them here. That's the point of the whole thing. But even going as far as, would you like to see the All Talk Show return? Because I kind of want to get that back in the mix, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. But if I devote the time to it, I want to make sure that people are actually going to listen to it. And some other ideas of some segments that might be coming up in the future, and blah, 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 that kind of stuff. So I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say about that. So I want you to fill out that survey that you can find below, as I mentioned before, that Google link, and tell me what you think. So all that stuff's going to be taken well into account. Last year, I did a whole bunch of changes based off of what you guys had voted. Everything from getting rid of the sidebar, trying to add some more women to the mix, adding a couple different gimmick posts and the layout changes and graphics and different things like that. So whatever you guys put in there, I always try to figure out a way to do whatever I can to make sure that in the future, then I can implement those changes. And of course, going along with that, since it is the end of the year, we got the end of the year awards coming up, 2016 edition of the Smarkies, which I still haven't figured out how I would want to spell it. If I would want to spell it with a Y-S or an I-E-S. I tend to refer to it as IES, so maybe I'll go with that one. That's not one of the questions on the survey, by the way. But yeah, there are a lot of changes this year to the Smark Out Moment Awards. One thing that I haven't figured out yet is how we're going to actually do it, because as you can tell, I've been doing a lot of solo episodes, and that's because we got a whole bunch of issues with everybody's work schedules not lining up, and it's times that I can't do it, the times that I can do it, nobody is able to do it, that kind of stuff. So that's why you've been hearing just me on a lot of these, which I know is going to be one of the guarantees that people are going to put down for the survey as a downside for Smack Talk. And I fully agree. I mean, I think that it's more efficient and easier to do these episodes by myself, but it's not as good. I'll fully admit it. I like the episodes where I can banter with somebody, and it's the same thing as the WWE Story Time, if you think about it that way. It's better if you can get multiple people and we can have some jokes back and forth and different stuff like that. So I've told you before, I promise that I'm going to try to figure out a way to get around that. And the same thing applies to the 2016 awards, because that takes fucking forever. We've got video processing, which takes hours and hours on end. And I think last year, the recording itself took like 7 hours to do. And by the time we got to the end of that, nobody really was into it anymore. So we can't do that anymore. And I've added more categories. So that's even harder to do. So I can't, in any good conscience, believe that we're going to do all these awards as video stuff anymore. We might do it just as audio. Maybe we'll do video for the Smack Talk Awards. Maybe we're going to do only the Smack Talk Awards. Maybe we're going to do something where we're going to do like a general, what are some of the awards you definitely want to pinpoint kind of a thing. Maybe I'm going to do some of the awards separately, or I'm going to do different people with different awards. I haven't figured it out yet. I want to know in the comments below, because this isn't part of the survey. I want to know what you guys would like to see possibly as a setup for that. But I want to give you guys a breakdown here of what the awards are going to be this year, because I've mentioned before, I've added a bunch of them. So you're going to see it on the screen right now on YouTube. If you're listening to iTunes and Stitcher, you'll be seeing a post is going to be posted up on the 1st of December. So that's going to have much more information of explaining every single category, giving you the list of every possible option for the majority of the categories, not every single one of them, because there's no way I'm going to put down every match that happened in the year for a potential candidate for match of the year. Not happening. So first off is the Technical Skills Awards. It used to be just the Technical Awards, but I wanted to specify Technical Skills, which is going to consist of entrance, which is, of course, best and worst. So best and worst entrance, best and worst signature maneuver, the best or coolest spot of the year versus the worst or biggest botch of the year. The recognition section, which is who is the most underrated and most overrated superstars in the company. The improvement section in a superstar, the biggest upgrade and the biggest downgrade of what a superstar did. So that's something like who went from this mediocrity to a huge step into the main event, or who was a big main eventer that just went downhill and sucked this year. Ring work, pretty self-explanatory. The mic work, the title reigns, and match of the year. Most of those I don't have to explain too much. Then we have the writing awards, which is catchphrase or slogan, gimmick, the characters and the different things that go along with those characters, heel or face turn. I got a list of those up on the website, so you can check that out when you want to. The best and worst comeback of the year, which is specifically referred to only people that have made temporary comebacks. So to give you a list of some of the people that are in there, Mickie James from TakeOver, because she isn't doing anything other than that. The Headbangers, they've only wrestled twice. Tajiri was only for the Cruiserweight Classic. The Rock showed up for one episode of Monday Night Raw. That kind of stuff. It's all just, they momentarily come back. They're not brought into the fold on a regular basis or anything, like Paul Ellering or Bob Backlund. Then we have the improvement in a division, which is the biggest upgrade and downgrade in a division, which this year now we have to split everything in twice now because we've got main event for Raw, main event for SmackDown, main event for NXT, the Cruiserweight division, the enhancement talent, etc. I got rid of the least shocking moment of the year because I thought about it and it really doesn't make much sense. We haven't had many good discussions about it, and it was always something like, well, John Cena won a match. So now that's just a most shocking moment of the year award. Nothing separating it in two. But we do still have the best and the worst Smark Out moments of the year, which is essentially what's the best thing that happened to this year that you thought was like the coolest thing, made you the happiest, and what was the worst thing that was just terrible and you maybe didn't want to watch WWE anymore, that kind of a thing. And best and worst storyline is the last one for the writing awards. Pretty self-explanatory on that one. Then we have the programming awards, which this is a new set, which is going to separate things from the writing awards into a bunch of different extra categories. So we got divisions for everything like analysis shows, which are the things like the post recaps, like Talking Smack and Raw Talk, and the pre-shows, SmackDown and Raw pre-show. The clip and recap shows like This Week in WWE, Bottom Line, Afterburn, Experience, that kind of stuff. And we have the interview shows, all the podcasts and Unfiltered and Superstar Inc. The YouTube shows, which is 5 Things, Shooting the Breeze, Up, Up, Down, Down, etc. The WWE Network Originals, so a couple things on those lists, the Story Time, Table for 3, WWE 24, etc. Primary shows, which is Raw, Main Event, Superstars, NXT, SmackDown, Total Divas, Total Bellas, Cruiserweight Classic, and 205 Live. Raw versus SmackDown award, which you just have to pick which one is the better brand, which maybe I'll translate that to the better brand award or Battle of the Brand award, maybe do something big like that, I don't know. The overall program of the year award, which is going to factor everything in from all those things in all those different categories. What was the absolute best? Because maybe you think that Raw was the best of the main brands, and at the same time you think that the best primary show was NXT. But if you work in the network shows and the analysis shows and all that, maybe your favorite thing, or least favorite for that matter, was Talking Smack. So that's a good way to round everything out like that. And lastly, pay-per-view or special event of the year, which does all the pay-per-views and special events. So then we split another thing here, which is on-air personality awards versus the wrestler awards. For the on-air personality ones, that's manager or valet. Only a couple options this year. Paul Heyman, Lana, Ric Flair, Bob Backlund, and Paul Ellering. That's it. Celebrity appearance is its own category now, which only has a few options, but that's what makes it a little bit hard and a little bit more fun too, because you go, oh man, I gotta pick a celebrity that was best. The authority figure, which is going to be the Daniel Bryans, William Regals, the McMahons, etc. The extra character of the year award, which is the most random ass thing where we've got the Trombones and Mitch the Plant and the Old Day and Noel Foley, Jim and Marvin Luter, shit like that. Heath Slater's family is on that list too. So that's separate from the other things. And then we also separated, we have announcer was always separate before, but on top of announcer, we also have a separation between commentator and broadcast correspondent, because I thought about it, and why do we have the interviewers lumped in with the commentators? Because they're doing two completely different jobs. So now the interviewers, the panelists, and the correspondents that just do that kind of stuff, they're in their own category, which means you can give an award to, say, Kathy Kelly, because she wouldn't be in a commentator one or an announcer one, or Charlie Caruso, or Maria Menounos is actually on that list because she did work for WrestleMania. And then the commentators, of course, is going to include everybody, which is the foreign ones and the American ones. So we've got everybody from Byron Saxton to Funaki, Marinallo, and Shun Yamaguchi, and Marcelo Rodriguez, and what's that one guy's name that I can't remember? Karsten Schaefer. They always say that guy right when I'm paying attention to it. So those are the on-air personality ones, which means that we still got to do all the wrestler ones, which they're going to be their own division this year. Newcomer, best and worst newcomer, is specifically just for people that have been new to the company, brand new. And this year, we're going to have more people than probably we ever will have again, because we've got every person from the Cruiserweight Classic for the most part, except for Brian Kendrick and Tajiri. I think they're the only two people that have been a part of something else. Oh, yeah, and Gargano and Ciampa. But then we have all the NXT guys that are new. So we got Alexander Wolf, Ember Moon, Eric Young, Nikki Cross, Tino Sabatelli, Qian Bing, Shinsuke Nakamura. It's going to be a lot of contenders here, because you also have brand new to WWE, the main roster, Gallows, Anderson, and AJ Styles. So that's going to be a really interesting one to pick from. You going to go with Austin Aries or Bobby Roode, or are you going to go with, say, TJ Perkins or Zack Sabre Jr.? There's a ton of different guys here, so that's really one to watch. And I separated it a little bit, because I used to have, when people come up from NXT to the main roster, that they were included in the newcomer, but I thought, why not give that a separate award? So this year, best and worst main roster call-up, anybody that's promoting from NXT to the main roster, which that has quite a bit of people. Sami Zayn, Finn Balor, Nia Jax, American Alpha, the Cruiserweights that have come up, Carmella, Alexa Bliss, Big Cass, Enzo. Oh man, it's a ton of people for these kind of things. We have the best and the worst future endeavors has been changed a little bit, because can you really say that there's a best and a worst release of the year? So instead, I figured why not change it to be the most unfortunate release or suspension. That's the best way to get around basically saying what we want it to say, which is, damn it, we're annoyed that this person got fired or that this person got suspended or something like that. If you go with the best release, it's almost the same as saying, who do you think was the worst superstar of the year? So we're treading on the same ground with that, and I figured, nah, I don't think we really need it. By the time we do this, if a lot of people are going, man, I really wish that I could have voted for my favorite person to get released, then maybe I'll add it next year. We have the best and worst tag team or stable, nothing different there, same thing with heel and babyface, but I did split the Superstar of the Year award up a little bit, because we used to have the best diva of the year and the best superstar of the year, because there was a distinction between male and female there. Well, now they're all referred to as superstars, so if I would have gone with diva and superstar, it would have been outdated. So we have female superstar of the year, male superstar of the year, and then kind of the same as what happens with the whole program of the year, the overall spectrum, who's the absolute best, that kind of a thing. Same thing's going to apply to superstar of the year, who is the absolute best and worst for all women and all men. So you can pick the worst person of the year was a man and the best was a woman, or vice versa, or both men, both women, whatever you decide to pick. And lastly, the division for Smack Talk Awards, which I guess you could say is more Smark Out Moment Awards, but I don't want to change those graphics all that much. These are all the ones that are just from us. So the best and the worst Did You Know joke of the year, the best and the worst outro song of the year. Last time that we're going to be having that awards because the outro is gone now. Best and worst segment of the year, best and worst t-shirt designs, that's brand new. Best and worst recurring joke, and the rankings of co-host of the year, which right now includes Angie Williams, Kaylin Ferris, Caroline Oliveira, Chris Dace, Dane Quinn, Drew White, Gabby Velasquez, Mike Payton, Sean Walker, and Steven Wago. So what you guys should do is take note of these kind of things. As I mentioned before, on the 1st of December, the post is going to be up on the website, so that's a little bit easier to follow. But if you want to start making your list right now and thinking about things, brainstorming what you might want to pick, then start adding those into Evernote or Microsoft Word or whatever you're doing for that. But there's the breakdown that I wanted to give to you guys for this week. I wanted to sort of mention this ahead of time so you guys got more than enough time to figure this out. You got a full month almost. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be doing the awards reveal and everything around a little bit after Christmas. So you've got weeks, more than enough time. And if you've been doing what I've been doing, which is keeping track of stuff all throughout the year, then hey, you're on the ball for that one. But that's going to be it for this edition of the Hot Tags. As I mentioned many, many times in the past, I want you to leave your comments below. Tell me what you think about all these stories that we talked about in the Hot Tags. Give me your information about the feedback and about the awards for whatever you want to chime in on. All that stuff's greatly appreciated. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You hit that thumbs up button as well, because that's going to help out. follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Smark Out Moment, and keep checking smarkoutmoment.com itself for anything else that's going to be coming up throughout the week. Usual content, Battle of the Brands is going to be up tomorrow at some point. We got the other weekly stuff peppered in here and there. So the next thing you're going to be hearing me from is going to be posted a little bit later on. Well, I guess technically today by the time that this will be up. And that's going to be the Ask Him, the wrestling trivia question of the week, and all the other IWC outreach stuff. And then maybe Thursday on Thanksgiving is when I'm going to post the TLC Sporkle quiz. I already took the quiz last night and recorded that, so I'm not going to tell you if I got it right or wrong, but that should come up maybe on Thanksgiving. And then we'll probably record the mailbag on Friday. Maybe we're going to record that on Wednesday. I'm not too positive about that yet, but it'll go up Friday, either late at night, middle of the afternoon, whatever the case may be. So if you hit that actual little bell notification icon that's on, it's next to the subscription thing on YouTube, that'll give you emails, if I'm remembering correctly, for whenever we post something new. So if you don't follow the website's feed on Facebook or anything like that, then that's another way for you guys to get notified whenever anything new comes up. And yeah, I think that's it. So I want to thank you all for listening, everybody. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and I'm being counted out.